Hi everyone, my name is Valerie Friedlander and I'm your host for Motherhood Unlimited, the #1 summit for moms who want it all. Welcome and thank you for joining us. It is our mission to take the limits off motherhood and empower moms to have it all for their own unique and vibrant life. We believe that when moms learn to create where, who, and how they want to be, their happiness and overall life satisfaction increases and they become inspired and inspirational for their children and each other. Today's topic is Wake Up and Know Thyself, why introspection and consciousness are the key to raising healthy and happy kids. Our expert is Betsy Rippentrop. I invited her to share with you because I admire her work helping moms integrate mind, body, and spirit in order to connect to our life purpose and grow. Thank you so much for being here with us, Betsy.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm pleased to be here.
Awesome. So glad to have you. Before we get started, let me tell the audience a little bit about you. Betsy is a licensed psychologist and certified yoga teacher whose passion is teaching the power of the mind-body connection. She owns Heartland Yoga, where she offers yoga classes, meditation training, teacher training, workshops on yoga for the mind, and training for mental health professionals on integrating yoga into psychotherapy. She maintains a private practice that provides mind-body psychotherapy, a holistic blend of Western psychology and the Eastern healing tradition of yoga. She has published on the relationship between spirituality and health, women's health, and chronic pain management, and is the co-author of The Complete Idiot's Guide to Chakras. She is the mother of 3 young children and has embraced the chaos that is parenthood, fully acknowledging that the only thing keeping her sane is meditation. You can follow her at dryogamama.com. So thank you again so much, Betsy, for being here with us today. Let me ask you what I ask all my experts, and that is tell us a little bit about your journey to taking the limits off of motherhood.
Great question, a good place to start. So I'm the mother to a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And about 3 years ago, I went through what one of my good friends termed my universal smackdown. I think I also think about it as my dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
And it was a really intense period. I had just had my 3rd child.
Mm-hmm.
She was about 1 at the time. I was maintaining a busy private practice. I was seeing lots of clients one-on-one each week. I had a yoga studio right next door to my practice that I was also managing and running and teaching at, and managing 10 teachers and all of the business things that went along with that.
Yeah.
And it all hit me. I was actually on a family vacation with my parents and it was kind of all kinds of layers of family there. And we were biking around Holland, actually. And Holland is a really flat country. And so this wasn't heavy biking. Mm-hmm. And we got, I was realizing during that week that I was so exhausted that biking, 15 miles a day, my 70-year-old mother had more energy than I did. And it sort of struck me. I'm like, there's something going on here. That was the start of my realization that my body was reacting pretty harshly to my life and how I had structured it. And so I went home and actually was very lucky to have a functional medicine doctor. Functional medicine is a branch of medicine that really looks at food as medicine. And so I started to work with her on what might be at the root of this deep exhaustion that I was feeling. Well, she started to run all these tests, and everything that came back showed that I had all these autoimmune markers in my blood. It didn't match up with any of the specific diagnoses like lupus or chronic fatigue syndrome, but still my blood was showing that my body was attacking itself. And this was pretty overwhelming for me. Here I was a yoga teacher. I was doing yoga. I was exercising. I've always had a really clean diet. I teach relaxation techniques and meditation. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What is going on here? And so layered on top of the exhaustion was almost this additional layer of feeling like a fraud, and that everything that I was teaching wasn't working for me. So what's going on here? So this began, I would say, really an 18-month journey of deep healing for me. What happened is I went on a completely different paleo diet. I gave up all grains. I found out I was really sensitive to gluten and dairy, and so I completely changed how I was eating. I also began to meditate every single day. And now prior to this, I had been meditating since I was about 20, but never consistently. I would use it when I was stressed out. I would use it when I was tired, but I hadn't really committed to doing it every single day. And so I started meditating every single day. I also changed a lot of things about how my business was running to make it more effective for me. And above all, I think the thing that happened the most is I realized that I really was not taking deep, deep care of myself, that I was so focused on caring for my children and taking care of my husband and taking care of my clients and making sure my teachers were happy, that any kind of deep self-care, there just wasn't time for it. And so this universal smackdown really forced me to return to Betsy. And so I went back to acupuncture, and I went back to seeing my own therapist, and I started meditating every day. And I started to do all of these things that I thought that I was doing, but I wasn't doing it deep enough. And I feel like this is one of my biggest messages for mothers, is that we're such huge givers. We're always giving. And so, like, self-care has to be almost extreme for us. And then in my profession, I was not only giving to my 3 children, but I was giving to 12 clients a week, and I was giving to students every week. And so I literally just got burned out. And I'm so grateful to my wise body, because I probably wouldn't have slowed down. I would have kept going. I'm raised in the Midwest. I'm work harder, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You can get through this. And I don't think that I would have ever really slowed down and taken such stock in my life, and really at sort of this midpoint in my life, really thought about where I was at and how I'd gotten there and what I wanted out of my life, instead of what I believed how I could take care of everyone around me, except for this really deep, deep illness and fatigue that hit me. So because of it, I made some massive, massive changes in my life, and have never felt better, feel much more centered and calm and steady. And for the first time in my life, I can honestly say that I will never abandon myself again. As I look back, I realized that I really abandoned myself. I really put myself last and put everyone else first. And so it had to take sort of this big smackdown, this big crisis, to shake me awake again, and realize that what I needed to do first and foremost was honor myself, take care of myself, look at myself, deal with myself. And if I was doing that, then everything else started to fall into place. But it was a long journey to get me there.
Wow. Yeah. I love that story, just because I too had some issues health-wise. It was before kids, but changing my diet and changing like how I was taking care of myself actually made it so that I was able to get pregnant, because I was trying to get pregnant and my body was saying no. And I saw these doctors, the endocrinologist, the OBGYN and all that stuff, and they were like, well, I mean, nothing's really that off. Slightly elevated levels of whatever, but like nothing was huge. And then I saw a nutritionist, and she had me do some radical changes, not for a extended period, but for a little bit, just to kind of get my body back to being functional again. I like you, just those processes were not functioning well. So yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big believer now. I mean, again, I felt like I was a really clean and healthy eater, but there were still a lot of things from the standard American diet that were part of my life, and those things just weren't serving me. I also think that many people are quite sensitive, and so food can be really toxic to us, even if it looks on the outset as if it might be healthy, like whole grain bread. seems like a healthy choice, but for me, it was toxic. And so every time I was putting gluten into my system, my gut was responding really negatively, and I wasn't fully aware of that. So again, when she first introduced me to a different diet that felt so extreme at the time, I thought, I can't do this. I can't give up pizza. You know, like, I don't eat pizza every night, but like once a week or once a month, I love a good slice of pizza. And yet, by making these changes, I can't even begin to express how much different I feel. And I actually don't miss pizza anymore because my body feels so good. I'm eating the foods that nourish me. And when I'm nourished, then I can better nourish everyone around me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said, aside from the food radical change, you talked about meditation.
Yeah.
Making that more of a daily practice. I've had a history with different forms of meditation, but I still find it hard to make it part of my day. What did you do to make that shift into a daily routine?
Yeah. So I was first introduced to meditation when I was in my senior year of college, actually. I'd gone down to do an internship at the University of Miami in health psychology, and I was working in a cancer center, and they had daily meditation. And so I would sit in this meditation. That was my very first experience, and something really happened. Like I was sort of blown away by how different I felt after sitting in this noon meditation for a half an hour every day. And so I went back to college after I had this experience in Miami. I went to school in Minnesota, and I started a meditation group in my last semester of my senior year. I had a psychology professor who supported me in that. And so I didn't have very many people who came, but those who came, we really supported each other in it, and it was very profound. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, I graduated, life moved on, and I started to move away from it. So I had this weird dance with meditation. I came in, I came out, I came in, I came out. But I always believed in it, and I told people to do it, and I followed the research on it. And but I do think it was this crisis that forced me into really thinking I have to go back to all of those things that I know work and start to really apply them to my life. But I do think the other thing that helped me so I get up every morning and do it. That's the only time that I can make sure that I don't have children awake and needing me or other tasks at hand. Mm-hmm. So I get up, 5:30 and sit. I sit for 40 minutes, but when I started, I was sitting more like 15 or 20 minutes. And the thing that kept me doing it every single day is I actually had a good friend who was also starting to meditate on a regular basis. She was similar to me. She was a yoga teacher and had gone in and out of it over the years. Mm-hmm. And she was committing to it. So the fact that I knew Marsha was up and sitting and doing it, it wasn't as much of a competitive thing, but it was an accountability thing. Like I knew Marsha was up. So if Marsha's up, I should be up doing this too. And so that really actually, I think, got me over the hump. And then once I did it long enough on a consistent daily basis, then suddenly I was feeling the changes. Mm-hmm. I was noticing that I was more productive, that I was more clear. And then it becomes a piece where you almost crave it. And now I can't imagine not doing it. If I miss a day, the day doesn't go as smoothly. Mm-hmm. So I can honestly say from here on out, I know it will be a daily part of my life forever because of the profound effects. But starting and sticking with it in the beginning, I think is hard, which is why having a partner or a class or a teacher that can help you get started and stick with it, I think is essential.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's one of the big things that as a coach, I help clients with is that accountability and helping switch those habits, because absolutely it's changing habits is really challenging. Absolutely. And it's so easy to just fall back into the old behaviors in that early period without having that kind of partner support or somebody to hold us accountable or help us hold ourselves accountable.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So what's one way that somebody could start moving into meditating who doesn't have any experience with that?
Yeah. The thing about meditation is it's actually really simple. It's not a complicated process. It's you don't really need anything special to do it. It's just simply quieting the mind and being with yourself. Now, there's some major sort of stumbling blocks for people, and the first thing came up. My mother was over the other day, and I was telling her, I needed to leave that night because I was going to teach a meditation class. And she goes, I don't understand how people can get their minds to stop. And I said, well, Mom, you don't actually get your minds to stop. The mind is always thinking, and it's going to forever be thinking. You don't stop the mind when you meditate. That's a big fallacy, that somehow the mind becomes completely calm and quiet and there's no thoughts during the time you're meditating. That's just not how it goes. Rather, meditation is watching where your thoughts go and choosing not to follow them. Mm-hmm. So I think that for meditation, even though it's actually simplistic, it's a simple process, I would say that it's not easy. It's not easy to do, and it's not easy to stick with. And the other thing is, when you're doing it, it actually feels like nothing is happening. So in the 40 minutes that I sit every morning, oftentimes it feels like a waste of time. Mostly I'm watching my mind flit all over the place, or I'm going back to planning about what is going on today, or where do my kids have to be. But I keep coming back. I use a mantra. I keep coming back to my anchor. And so nothing feels like it's happening often when we're meditating, mm-hmm. but the real results are how the rest of your day goes and how you start to respond to life. And usually, often people outside of you can tell the results or feel the results sometimes sooner than you can. People notice that you're not as stressed out, or that you're more patient, or that you're calmer, or that you're kinder or more compassionate. So even though it's simple, it's not easy to do and to continue to do. So I'm a big believer in finding a teacher, because I think if you have a teacher, you can troubleshoot with them. You can ask them questions. Again, you've got accountability in place. Yeah. And it seems to me that most communities now have someone teaching meditation. The course I teach is just 3 times. We meet once a week for 3 weeks, and I teach them the simplistic process of meditating and get them going, and then continue to be a contact for them if they have questions. So if you have a teacher, great. If not, there are so many resources now. My favorite resource is Insight Timer. It's an app that you can put on your phone, and it's got a timer on it. And it for people who are type A, it keeps track of your stats. So it keeps track of how many days you're meditating, how long you meditated. You can look at the graphs. And that also can be motivation to see, oh, wow. And then if you meditate 10 days in a row, they give you like a little star that goes behind your name.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. And then also on that app, this is a free app. And I work for Insight Timer. I recommend this to everyone. There's also guided meditations. So if you work better with having a voice guide you, there are 10-minute, 20-minute ones. And I use it every single night for my 10-year-old and 7-year-old. They love it. I put on a yoga nidra or a sleep meditation for them. It's my phone. I put it on their ladder on their bed and walk out the door. And usually within 7 minutes, they're out. But every night they beg, Mom, can we do that sleep meditation thing?
Oh, I am so all over that.
Yeah, and it works. And you just
fabulous.
App Sleep, and there's some for kids. I play ones for adults for them too, because it's just calm voice and calm music. And they, one of my sons has had a little bit of insomnia lately, and so he has no problem with it now because of this, playing them. And I like that I'm introducing them to meditation. I mean, they wake up and they see Mom sitting every morning. They know I meditate. They often joke around about it, and they go, Mom is meditating. But they see it, right? Like they know that I do it, and I think they feel my calm and my steadiness. And so my hope is I'm just planting seeds that someday they'll be able to rely on that or go to it. Right now I've tried to meditate with them, but, it lasts about a minute. But even that for a 7-year-old child is a great feat to be able just to sit for a minute in silence. So yeah. I encourage. Yeah.
I was thinking as you were saying that, my mom used to go, she had set up her closet, it was one of those walk-in closets, set it up as like a space for her, and knew if she hadn't like spent time in her space meditating, that she was going to be way more reactive, and just less pleasant to be around. And I mean, I knew that like as an older kid, that made more sense to me than as a younger kid. I think I don't know. Well, actually, I think when I was earlier, she wasn't doing that yet. So I'm glad that she picked that up. It's beneficial, but it's good for me to remember too, like you're saying about being that example for our kids of taking care of ourselves, of doing, you know, and knowing that people aren't always going to understand, but the quality of how you show up is so much more authentic and feels more centered.
Yeah, there's that famous saying that people don't really remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. And I think that this is so key, that our presence, you know, how we show up in the world, not what we say, not what we do, not what our accomplishments are, but how we make people feel is how they remember us. So the more centered and steady and compassionate and open-hearted and, you know, unbounded we are, people feel that and they remember that. And I think can be our legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about the difference that you've seen, you know, from being a mom and kind of getting all caught up and stuff, and then going to the making some changes. And I know your talk is about raising these, you know, healthy, happy kids, and that's part of what this summit's all about.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So I think the biggest change for me, I mean, I've always been someone who's been interested in self-awareness and taking care of myself and understanding myself. But I think that because of the big autoimmune crisis that I went to, I really stepped up my game in terms of caring for myself and really honoring and loving myself in a way that I'd never done before. So I'm a classic perfectionist and type A. I've always been a gunner. I've always gotten good grades and, you know, went off to get the PhD and research. And so, you know, motivation was never an issue for me. I was always pushing myself. And yet I realized I pushed myself really from a negative standpoint. You know, it was this pressure to do it all perfectly and to do it right and to make it happen and to achieve. And that is beneficial to a point. You know, there's something called the law of least effort. We need to show up in our lives and we need to work hard and we need to, you know, put in our time. And yet there comes a point of no return, a point where like it doesn't help anymore to work that much harder. In fact, it usually unravels things. And for me, that's exactly what happened. You know, I was working hard and I was, you know, successful in the eyes of the world. And yet my body was falling apart, and that push, that drive to keep going and to make everyone happy and to do it all right and to have my life together and be the perfect mom and be the best psychologist I can be and be the best yoga teacher. I mean, it just ate away at me. And so what I would say now, post-crisis, and now being a really regular active meditator, is that I'm still motivated and I still work hard, but I'm much less attached to the outcome. And I'm much more present and in the moment. And so like right now I'm with you and I'm talking and I'm enjoying this. Yeah. And I know there's a list of things to get done, but my mind isn't going there anymore like it once did. I'm here. And so, of course, as you think about parenting, wow, that makes a huge difference, because I do own 2 businesses and I do have a lot on my plate. And yet when I'm with my kids, because of my meditation practice, And this practice of staying in the moment, being with what is right now, I enjoy my kids more and I can laugh more. And I'm not so caught up in what has to get done next week or what big thing is coming down the pipeline a month from now, because I'm just much more present and in my body and in this moment. And that is a game changer.
Yeah.
All the difference in the world. And because I've committed so much to taking deeper care of myself and sitting with myself and being with myself, I'm not as hard on myself. So when I make mistakes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or when I made a mistake, I'd be like, no, I can't make a mistake. I got to get it all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just like, I'm flowing with life more, and I'm enjoying it more. And I'm probably doing better at everything I do because I'm not taking it so damn seriously anymore. I'm able to flow a little bit more with all of it.
Yeah.
So, and I just feel I feel happier. I feel more content. I feel more settled than probably I ever have. And I know I have a long way to go. I'm not sitting here saying I got it all figured out, because I don't. I mean, I still, lose it sometimes, or lose it with my kids, or think, I can't do this. But there is a profound shift internally in me because of the self-care and the self-awareness and the meditation that I've really committed to. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, we don't have to be perfect, but it becomes okay. Like, there's this movement right now for moms not to have to be perfect, but I think it's up here right now, a lot of it, and it's not here, because I still hear a lot of that, like, guilt and stress and trying to do it all still, and that's one of the things that I talk. That I say this is about moms who want it all. They want to have it all, and you don't have to do it all or do it all perfectly even.
Yeah.
Have it all. It's about that being where you are. Exactly what you're saying. It's about being where you are and just being there. Because I think we lose so much in the process of trying to be many places. They've done all these studies about, like, multitasking. And it's like our brain, even if we're doing one thing, it's like if our brain is doing a million other things at the same time, it's still that mental multitasking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love that. Okay. So all right, we're coming to our end of our time, and I want more, but what would be like the top 2-3 things that you would hope that our audience would take away from what you shared?
Yeah. So my parenting tips are not about how you parent your children. My parenting tips are all about taking care of yourself, putting yourself first, and committing to not even just self-care, but extreme self-care. Because if you're a mother and you have a job and you have all these other responsibilities in life, there has to be a commitment, like an extreme commitment to yourself. And that can come in many forms. For me, it's meditation, but I would also say it's got to come in the form of, like, love for yourself. Mm-hmm. Really. And I think this is a hard thing for women. I think we've all been taught that we have to look a certain way and our bodies have to be a certain shape, and a good mom makes homemade this and that and doesn't let her kids eat McDonald's. And we have all these images of what the perfect mom and perfect wife should be. And I think it really comes down to if you are loving yourself, if you are being honest with yourself. I mean, that's the other thing I had to do. So I had to get really honest with myself. Then everything else starts to fall in place. So my advice to mothers is, number one, carve out time for yourself. And so this may mean that you're meditating every day. This may mean that you're running every day, or you're getting out for a hike every day, or you're, but carve out time for yourself. That would be number one. And then number two, do something to help you know yourself better. Because when you start to know yourself better, you just approach the world differently. You approach your children differently. You're in your relationship with your spouse differently.
Yeah.
And so that might mean psychotherapy. That might mean working with a coach. That might mean journaling. That might be having a friend that you can actually be really real with and not talk about the latest TV shows or not talk about the antics of your kids, but really talk about your heart and what's going on inside of your life. Mm-hmm. So number one, you got to carve time out for yourself. I don't care if you have to wake up an hour earlier. You have to have you time mm-hmm. to fill yourself up to be the best parent and partner possible. And then second of all, know yourself. Do those activities that help you figure out who you are so that you don't react unconsciously. So you don't scream at your kids because you're tired and exhausted and had a horrible experience with your boss that day. Don't take it out on your children. But you have to know yourself enough. And mindfulness and meditation are, I believe, one of the greatest ways to do that. But know yourself. So those are my, 2 parenting tips that, I totally believe in. You got to carve out the time and you have to know yourself. You have to engage in self-awareness and self-study.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much, Betsy, for being here with us tonight. I think you have a gift to share with the listeners. Would you tell us a little bit about that?
It's eight conscious parenting tips. And I also have a guided meditation or guided audio that you can download. And again, my parenting tips aren't about how to manage your bossy 3-year-old, but my conscious parenting tips are how you can actually know yourself and take care of yourself and be clear about yourself and your patterns and your past so that you come to your relationship with your children in a really mindful, clear way. Mm-hmm. So you can download that, and it's present on my website, Dr. Yoga Mama, MOMMA.com.
Awesome. And as a reminder to everyone, the email you were sent for this video has a link to accessing that free gift as well. So go check it out. I'm going to.
Check it out.
Awesome. So this concludes this interview of Motherhood Unlimited, and thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Betsy, for being here.
You're welcome.
And be sure to tune in tomorrow for another exciting, inspirational, and helpful interview from Motherhood Unlimited. I look forward to having you all join us. Thanks. Bye.